Good evening, friends. Today we'll talk about Indian Contract Act 1872. Indian Contract Act 1872 governs law relating to contracts in India. This act was passed by British India and is based on the principles of English common law. So, Indian Contract Act is based on English, that is passed by British India and based on English common law. Okay, so that is an Indian Contract Act. This act is applicable to whole India, even including Jammu and Kashmir. This act came into effect from 1st September 1872 and applies to all the contracts of India. So let us discuss about important definitions under this act. The first and foremost thing which is important is proposal. Proposal we can study under section 2A. When one person signifies to another person his willingness to do or abstain from doing anything with a view of obtaining the assent of that person to such act or abstinence, he is said to make a proposal. So what here we are trying to understand is one person A signifies to another person B his willingness to do. Either he is willing to do or abstain. Abstain means not willing to do anything with a view to obtain the assent of that person to such act. He is said to be making a proposal. Second comes acceptance. Acceptance we can see under section 2B, clause B. So, what is acceptance? When the person to whom the proposal is made, so this is the person to whom the proposal is made, if he signifies his assent, thereto the proposal is said to be accepted. Okay, I am okay with this proposal. When he says like that, agreement like somewhat like that, so it is said to be accepted. A proposal when accepted becomes a promise. Proposal being accepted becomes a promise. Okay, then what do we see? Person making proposal. Who makes proposal? Who makes proposal is called a promiser, and the person who is accepting is called as promisee. Promiser, promisee. Next comes the agreement. Agreement we study under section 2E. Okay, every promise and every set of promises forming the consideration for each other is an agreement. So every promise or every set of promises, whatever is the promise or the promise, number of promises forming the consideration for each other is an agreement. Consideration, when it is going for consideration, okay, of each other, then it becomes an agreement. Agreement we study under section 2 subclause E. Every promise and every set of promises forming the consideration for each other is an agreement. In simple words, agreement is equals to offer plus acceptance. Okay. Then we talk about void contract, that is void agreement. Section 2G. An agreement is not enforceable by law is said to be void. So, which is not enforced by law, it is said to be void. Means not taken under consideration. An agreement not enforceable law is called as a void. Next comes contract. Contract we study under section 2H. An agreement enforceable by law is called a contract. This is enforceable. Okay. This is enforceable by law. Void agreement means not enforceable by law. Not enforceable by law. This void agreement is not enforceable. Contract is enforceable. Is called a contract. In simple words, if we talk, contract is nothing but agreement plus enforceability. Okay, that is about contract. Then voidable contract. What is a voidable contract? An agreement which is enforceable by law at the option, that is at the option of one or more of the parties thereto, but not at the option of the other or others, is a voidable contract. Okay. So what did we study under Indian Contract Act 1872? First of all, Indian Contract Act 1872 governs all the laws relating to the contracts in India. This act was passed by the British India and is based on the principle of English common law. This act is applicable to the whole of India, even including Jammu and Kashmir. The act came into effect from 1st September 1872 and applies to all contracts in India. So when we talk about the important definitions here, the first one is proposal. Proposal we study under section 2A. When one person signifies to another person his willingness to do or abstain from doing anything with a view to obtaining the assent of that other to such an act or abstinence, he is said to make a proposal. Acceptance. When the person to whom the proposal is made to signify his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted. A proposal, when accepted, becomes a promise. Now, here we talk about promiser and promisee. Person making a proposal is called promiser. Accepting the proposal is called as a promisee. Next comes agreement. Agreement we study under section 2E. Every promise and every set of promises forming the consideration for each other is an agreement. In simple words, agreement is offer plus acceptance. Void agreement, section 2G. An agreement not enforceable by law is a void agreement, is said to be void. Contract is 2H, section 2H. An agreement enforceable by law is called as a contract. When we talk in simple words about contract, it is nothing but agreement plus enforceability. Voidable contract, an agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one or more of the parties thereto, but not at the option of the other or others, is called as a voidable contract. We'll talk more about this in the next class.